Hi, friend. Welcome to Holly's Highlights, a podcast designed to encourage, inspire, and equip you to intentionally live your life full of purpose. I'm your host, Holly Kirby, motivational speaker, leadership cultivator, marketing strategist, and personal cheerleader. Let's check out today's highlight. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to thank Cozy Earth for being in this space today. I only recommend products that I genuinely use and love myself, and Cozy Earth is one of those brands. Now, full transparency, I am a Cozy Earth affiliate. So if you decide to purchase through my link, I do receive a commission at no additional cost to you, and you receive 20% off. I've tried a lot of sheets over the years, including some from other premium brands that people rave about, and truly Cozy Earth sheets beat every competitor set I own. Now, the biggest difference for me has been the temperature regulation. Their bamboo fabric helps keep me from overheating at night, and for the first time in a long time, I'm actually sleeping through the night instead of constantly waking up feeling too hot. They're incredibly soft. They've held up beautifully. I have the pink set, and they become one of those things I genuinely miss whenever I have to switch out my sheets when I'm doing laundry. I can't wait to get my Cozy Earth pink sheets back on the bed. So if you've been thinking about upgrading your sleep setup, I definitely recommend checking out cozyearth.com. But again, use my link in the show notes to learn more and support the podcast at the same time, all while getting yourself a nice little discount too. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hello, my friends. Summer has a way of changing our pace, doesn't it? Maybe you're listening to this while packing for a trip, or driving with the windows down, or stilling a quiet moment while everyone else is still asleep. Or maybe summer for you doesn't look like vacation at all, but it still carries a different rhythm than the rest of the year. There's something about this season that makes us just step back, even just a little bit. Our routines loosen, our schedules shift, and in the middle of that space, we often become more aware of where we are and where we're going. And I've been thinking a lot about that idea lately. Growth. Not the kind that's rushed or loud, but the kind that happens underneath the surface while life keeps going. I want to begin by placing an image in your mind, and that is of a seashell. It's the Chambered Nautilus. At first glance, it's simple. It has a creamy white with caramel-colored stripes spiraling outward in perfect symmetry. You've probably seen one sitting on a shelf, maybe in a beach house or maybe in a science classroom, but they're beautiful. And it's not just beautiful, it's actually brilliant. Because what makes the Chambered Nautilus extraordinary isn't what you see on the outside. It's actually what's happening on the inside. Now, the Chambered Nautilus is a living creature, and as it grows, it's actually building new chambers inside its shell. Here's the part that gets me every time, though. It never leaves its shell. It never abandons its protection like those little crabs that we used to have as little pets growing up. It never outgrows its covering. Instead, when it gets too big for the space it's in, it simply builds a new chamber, and then it seals off the old one, and it moves forward. The old chamber doesn't disappear. It doesn't crack off. It doesn't get rejected. It becomes part of the structure that supports the next level of growth. Now, did you catch that? The old chamber becomes the foundation for the next one. Some of us are living in a chamber that's too small, aren't we? Maybe you feel cramped in your career, in your leadership, in your confidence, in your calling. You've grown, but your environment hasn't. You've evolved, but your mindset hasn't caught up yet. You've developed new capacity, but you're still trying to function in an old space. And that tension you're feeling, well, it's not failure, it's actually growth. The Chambered Nautilus doesn't panic when space gets tight. It doesn't say, something must be wrong with me. It rebuilds by building. And I believe that's what you are being called to do right now. Build the next chamber. Let's talk about what that really means. Building a new chamber is not passive. The Nautilus secretes material slowly, intentionally, layer by layer. Growth isn't glamorous. It's daily habits, it's hard conversations, it's uncomfortable feedback. It's stretching beyond what feels safe. And here's the truth we don't always like. You can't grow and stay comfortable at the same time. Man, that's a hard one for me to hear and to say. you can't grow and stay comfortable at the same time. Comfort's for maintenance, but growth, that's for movement. If you're feeling pressure right now, it might not be because you're breaking. It might be because you're expanding. Now, this is one of my favorite parts. The Nautilus seals off each old chamber, but it keeps it. Those previous spaces, they become internal support. What does that mean for us? Well, your past isn't useless. That failed business, that difficult decision, that tough season, that leadership mistake, the heartbreak, the financial crisis, it's not wasted. It's structural support. You don't have to erase who you were to become who you're becoming. You don't have to resent the old version of yourself. She got you here. He survived that season. They did the best they could with what they knew. Seal it, bless it, learn from it, then build forward. Outgrowing a chamber, it requires awareness. The Nautilus knows when it no longer fits. Many of us stay too long. We stay in roles we've outgrown. We stay in belief systems that shrink us. We stay in environments that no longer align. And why? Because building something new, it feels risky. And I don't know about you, but I am not a risk taker. It's easier to stay in what's tight but familiar. But here's what I want you to hear today. If you stay in a chamber too small for you, it doesn't just limit you, it distorts you. And you, my friend, were not designed to contort yourself to survive. You were designed to expand, or as I prefer to say, to sparkle. Now look at that shell of the chambered nautilus again. Visualize it in your head. It spirals outward in what mathematicians call a logarithmic spiral, I believe it's called. It's a pattern found throughout nature. Growth isn't random. It's patterned. It's progressive. It builds on itself. You don't leap from one chamber to chamber 10. You actually have to build chamber 2 and then 3 and then 4. And some of us get frustrated when we can't just jump to chamber 8, right? I'm right there with you. But have you honored chambered 2? Have you mastered those habits, built the discipline, strengthened the character? Because expansion without integrity collapses. The Nautilus grows proportionally. So should we. So let's get practical. How do you build the next chamber in your life? Well, there's 4 steps we're going to look at. First off, identify what feels tight. Where do you feel pressure? Is it your schedule, your identity, your leadership style, your boundaries? Pressure's information, so don't numb it, don't ignore it, study it. As author Elizabeth Gilbert has said, listen to the whispers before they become screams. Number 2, increase your capacity before you increase your visibility. The Nautilus builds internally before the outward spiral expands. So many people want the bigger platform before building the bigger character. Do the internal work first. Develop emotional intelligence, strengthen resilience, invest in skill development, deepen your faith, refine your values. As Benjamin Franklin warned, if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. In other words, public expansion without private preparation can be very dangerous. Number 3, seal the old chambers with gratitude, not shame. Now, this one is big. You cannot build forward while dragging that thing of regret with you. If there's something in your past you're ashamed of, learn from it, yes, but don't live in it. The Nautilus does not re-enter old chambers. It doesn't go in and redecorate them or relive in them. It moves forward. As theologian and pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer encouraged, gratitude transforms memory, in other words, our history, into strength. Number 4, adjust your buoyancy. Here's something fascinating, is that the chambered nautilus controls its buoyancy by regulating gas and fluid inside its sealed chambers. That's how it rises or sinks in the ocean. Just think about that. It rises or sinks based on what it allows inside. So do we. What voices are filling your chambers? What narratives? What beliefs? I've always sang a song with my children. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. There's a Father up above, and he's looking down in love. So be careful, little eyes, what you see. And it goes on to say, our mouth, what we say, and our ears, what we hear, and our mind, what we think, and our feet, where we go, and our hands, what we do. Guard what gets inside you. It determines your elevation. As former motivation speaker Zig Ziglar put it, your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude. The Nautilus doesn't grow a new chamber in a day. It's slow. According to asknature.org, it takes 23 to 150 days to complete the growth of a single new chamber. Roughly 30 to 33 chambers during its 15 to 20 year lifespan, because it usually stops about year 10 of adding to its chambers. Maybe that's our retirement phase. But in a world obsessed with instant success, slow growth feels like failure. But slow growth is sustainable growth. We don't celebrate roots because they're underground, but without them, nothing stands. If your growth feels invisible right now, keep building layer by layer, conversation by conversation, decision by decision, habit by habit. No one applauds the Nautilus while it's forming the chamber, but the beauty of it shows later. Now, for those of you who lead in business, in community, in family, there's another lesson here too. You cannot force someone else into your chamber size. Not everyone is ready for the space you're building. Leadership is not dragging people upward. It's actually modeling expansion. It's creating environments where others can build their own chambers. Healthy leaders don't demand growth. They demonstrate it. There's something deeply spiritual about the Chambered Nautilus, too. It grows in a spiral. It's not a straight line. Sometimes growth in our lives feels that circular motion. We revisit similar challenges. We face familiar fears. We wrestle with old doubts. But here's the difference. When you come back around, you're at a wider place in the spiral. You're not in the same spot. You're higher, you're stronger, you're wiser. What feels like repetition, it's often refinement. So let me say this clearly. You are allowed to become more. Whether that be more confident, more bold, more skilled, more aligned, more free. Expansion is not arrogance. It's obedience to growth, my friends. The Chambered Nautilus doesn't apologize for needing more space, so why do we? Now, I want you to think of one area of your life where you know that you've outgrown your current chamber. Now, don't overthink it. Just notice what comes to mind first. And now ask yourself, what would building the next chamber require? Maybe it's a conversation, a boundary, a class, a risk. I am not a risk taker. Maybe a surrender. Growth is rarely accidental. It is intentional construction. Here's one more thing I want you to hear. The Chambered Nautilus has existed for hundreds of millions of years. It has survived mass extinctions. And why? Because it adapts. It grows. It builds capacity over time. Well, resilience is not about resisting change. It's about building for it. When you expand internally, you're not just surviving your season, you're preparing for longevity. Now, as we close, I want you to picture that spiral shell again. Each chamber represents a season, a lesson, a version of you, none of them wasted, all of them necessary. You are not behind, you're building. You're not failing, you're expanding. And the pressure you feel, it may be the signal that it's time to build the next chamber, layer by layer, choice by choice, faith by faith. That spiral continues, and so do you. Now, I want to take a moment to share something personal with you, because if you've been listening for any length of time, you've actually been hearing this story unfold without maybe even realizing it. See, 6 years ago, I started Holly Kirby LLC as I was preparing to release my book, Facelift, which came out 3 years ago. Now, around that same time, 6 years ago, I also prepared for that season of releasing my book by launching this podcast, Holly's Highlights. Since then, life has been anything but linear. I've consulted for businesses during COVID. I've coached people who reached out after hearing me speak. I've had the privilege of speaking both virtually and in person across the world. And if I'm honest, there were plenty of moments I just wanted to shut it all down. Whether it was out of discouragement, imposter syndrome, or just plain fear. But over and over again, in those moments, God would meet me there. Not always with clarity, no, but with reassurance that He was still using this. He was still working. He was still speaking. And over this past year, I've felt something shifting again, like I'm being prepared for the next chamber. And so with a mix of excitement and honestly, a little bit of fear, I share with you, I want to introduce to you something new, and that is anchored living. Maybe you've even noticed it before I said it out loud, little threads of it woven throughout the last 6 months of episodes and posts. The idea of being anchored, of living anchored, staying anchored, even when it wasn't something I was intentionally naming yet. But now I can. Anchored living is the next step of this journey. And here's what it means. Not just inspiration for inspiration's sake, but helping you actually live anchored in every space of your life, in your job, at home, in your relationships, in your community, in your faith, in your purpose, in your everyday decisions. The heart hasn't changed. I'm still here to encourage, inspire, and equip you to live a life full of purpose. But that chamber is expanding. And maybe that's the best way to say it, is this is a new chamber. I've been talking about that idea a lot lately, even without naming it directly. That chambered nautilus, that image of growth that doesn't abandon what came before, but builds forward into something stronger, wider, more capable. And that's where I find myself now, not starting over, but expanding. And you know what? I'm still terrified. In fact, I didn't want to share this as now it's out there for others to know that growth is coming. And you know what else? I may just fall flat on my face, and you're going to have a front row view of it. But I do know I'm trying to be obedient, despite the insecurities, despite the fears, despite the unknowns. If you've been part of this community for any length of time, I want you to know how deeply grateful I am for you, for showing up, for listening, for sharing this space with me while I've been learning and growing and stumbling and being stretched right alongside you. And I want to invite you to keep going with me. A few ways that we can stay connected as this continues to unfold is, first of all, join my monthly email. It's where I share updates, encouragement, resources, and offers from sponsors and affiliates that I personally use and trust myself. It's the best way to stay in the loop as things continue to expand. Second, follow me on Instagram, because that's often where new doors and projects start to open up is by my follower count. I am not one that goes for followers, so you'll see that when you go on there. But as the new projects are being approached and opportunities are being opened up to me, that is something that they are starting to look at. So I'd welcome you to follow me on Instagram. And third, if this podcast, the book Facelift, or anything I have shared has impacted you, I'd be so honored if you'd share it, whether that's with a friend, your business, your nonprofit, or your church or organization. I do speak both in person and virtually, and I'd love to continue serving in that way where it fits. But more than anything, I just want to say thank you. This really is what anchored living is about, growing, expanding, and becoming who we're meant to be without losing what holds us steady. I'm grateful to be walking into this summer with you in this new chapter, in this new rhythm, and in this expanded space of anchored living. I'll be right here with you as we grow in it together. And as always, I'm cheering you on. Thank you for joining me on this journey of life. I hope that today's highlight has been encouraging, inspiring, and equipping so you can go out and live your life full of purpose. I'd be honored if you'd take a moment to leave a review, or better yet, subscribe. We can also stay in touch by joining my email list at hollycurby.com. That's HOLLYCURBY.com. Until next time, make it a great day for a great day.